Okay, the recording is active. So once you have your images, right, set up, your front, your right, and then your top right, all nicely aligned already, and also you put it inside the image layers and put them as reference so that you will not accidentally select it and move it. So first, we are going to, before we start modeling, right, the first thing is you need to go and look for references. There are tons of references of this particular plane. So if you look for ME163, you look under images, right, you can see close-up details of the particular aircraft. It's a very, very simple aircraft. Right, so this was used during World War II, right, to shoot down American bombers bombing Germany, and it ran on rocket engines. And I think in recent times, right, they rebuilt this as a glider, right? You actually can find people flying this today as a glider, okay? So it's a very, very simple object, and you can see from the drawings, right, and then from the pictures that it just have a cylindrical, stubby body. So cylindrical, that means, right, a good starting point or object that we can use, right, to model this would be we start off with a cylinder, a low resolution cylinder. Okay, so I'm going to start off by creating a cylinder, but I'm not going to use a cylinder with so many sides. So if you go over to your channel box, you want to reduce the number of cylinders down to maybe, I think 8 is good. All right, it's a good even number. And then I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. So press E, holding down the J, and then rotate it 90 degrees like so. And then we're going to use a method of modeling, right, which you guys have not learned yet, which is the duplicate special method. All right, so please pay attention how I set this up. So once I rotated this cylinder like this direction here, I'm going to freeze transformation, okay, and so that I'll reset the rotations. I'm going to go to the front view. Okay, you can watch the video again, just rewind. So freeze transformation ready to reset, and I already rotated the cylinder. It's an eight-sided cylinder. I'm going to delete away half of the faces here. So go to face selection mode and drag a box over half of the faces here like that, and then just delete until you end up with a shape looking like this. All right, so basically half a cylinder. Next, I'm going to use a duplicate special along the x-axis. So the freeze transformation is very important, otherwise, right, your axis will be messed up. So I'm going to reset this. Now, when you do duplicate special, you all remember you can use duplicate special to create array of objects, but in this case, we are going to create an instance, right? An instance. And then for the scaling, I want to change the scale to -1 for the X, Y, and Z. And then we're going to create one copy. And then hit duplicate special. So when you hit duplicate special in -1 scale in the x-axis, you'll notice that right now I have a perfect duplicate on the other side. So what does this duplicate on the other side do? Because it is very similar to turning on symmetry, but it has a slight advantage in that when I extrude and or select the objects on the other side, right, the extrusion is much more predictable. Okay, especially when you're extruding like sides like this. Right, that's why I prefer this method of modeling. However, there is a few more steps to do when you need to join two halves together. Okay, so now I got this two half set up for mirror modeling. Now I can go over to the right view. Okay, and then I can move the cylinder. Now remember, we have two parts now, so you need to drag a box like that and move the two halves right to the center here. Okay, and then we can start to pull the vertices. All right, I'm going to pull the vertices, select the two rows of vertices and pull it all the way here, and pull another set of vertices all the way here. Now you can change the front view to check that you are in the center. So remember, you need to drag a box and pull the vertices until it matches. Now if your center, right, or rather if your cylinder size is not big enough, right, you might have to manually move the vertices, right, to match the size. Okay, right now you can see the body of the aircraft, right, is much thicker than my cylinder. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag and then block out the size of the cylinder first, just by doing this. Now if you cannot see clearly or it's too bright, right, you can press Alt Z, sorry, not Alt Z, you have to turn on X-ray mode. Is it Shift Z or Z? I cannot remember the shortcut key. X-ray, yeah. You can turn on X-ray mode so you can see through in like wireframe. You can just pull the vertices until it matches the general size of the shape that you want to do, like that. This is the front view. Okay, this is the front view so far. Okay, now if you look to the right view, you can see that now it is matching the thickness, but you can see that there's a taper going down to the nose here. All right. So right now we just want to block out the fuselage. Okay, the fuselage is actually called the body of aircraft. Right. So we can turn on the perspective view, and you can see we want to select these three faces. Remember, we are no longer modeling, right, based on full object, but half of the object. So I'm going to do a quick extrude, holding down the shift, and then extrude a small section here for the nose. If you go to the right view, okay, you can just pull out the section until it reaches this section here. Okay, this little propeller is not producing thrust. It's actually more for speed, measuring speed. Okay, so now I have this group of vertices matching the line here. I can press R for scale. I can scale it non-uniformly downwards like that first. Then I'll go to the front view. Okay, you notice that I scaled it flat like that, but if I scale it this way, non-uniformly, right, you notice that the group of faces will spread from the center. Okay, so I will have to press W and move it back until the two halves touch each other again. All right. So let's go to perspective view. We are still in X-ray view, so let's go and change it back. Uncheck the X-ray view and see our result. Okay, so if you look at the right view so far, it looks like that. Okay, I'm going to show you guys a trick where you can make this surface, right, not so, what do you call that? Right now you can see the reference, right? The background reference is very bright, but we can actually adjust the image properties of this. But then when you go to X-ray view, it always look a little bit less bright. Okay, I'm going to continue to use X-ray so that I can see through my object and then the rest of the body. So now for the nose, we got the shape. We're going to do it for the tail section here. Okay, so go over to perspective view. We go over to the other side here. Select the four faces. Then we're going to do a quick extrude as well. Hold down the shift and then pull out a section. Then we're going to switch back to our right view and see how far we should pull. So we're going to pull it until we reach the nozzle area of the aircraft. And same thing, use scale. We're going to scale it down this section first. All right. Then go back to our back view. Okay, if we go to the back view, right, of course, there's no back view reference for us to see. We are looking at the back of our image right now. So this one, right, we have to use our top view to help us. So if we look at the top view, you'll notice that these bunch of vertices over here are too far already. So we're going to grab these vertices, use the move tool, and move it in. And you can use shaded view. All right, right now I'm X-ray view, a bit hard to see, right? So I'm going to turn off my X-ray view. And then I'll just manually push this in until it matches the nozzle size. So if I go to perspective view, you can see this is roughly what I got. Now you can manually tweak this yourself. I can grab this point and then just put this in. And then these vertices here. Remember, over here you cannot use circularize. You cannot use circularize tool. If you use circularize tool, right, this part will fall apart. I'll show you what I mean. If I select these faces, then I try to use circularize. Okay, it doesn't work. All right, it will actually take these faces and make circles out of it. So circularize doesn't work in this case. you will have to manually move these vertices, right, until they form a circle. Because remember, we are modeling two halves here. All right, so now we have this basic shape. We're going to go to the right view. And then we're going to see where we can insert more edge loops, right, so we can create the top section here. So I'm going to use the multi-cut tool. And I'm going to put maybe one edge loop here. And then maybe another edge loop here. Right. Then using select, press Q to select, I'm going to grab this top vertex here. Then just going to move it up like that. And this vertex, I'm going to move it up like that. Okay. Maybe this one, move it down here. Then push back a bit. Right, you can see the number of vertices are very, very low, so we are keeping it as simple as possible. Okay, so we need another more edge loop around here. So shift right mouse click, insert, and if you need to see behind, then you turn on your X-ray. Press Q to select. Okay, so I'm going to move the vertex until it matches sort of the flow of the cockpit. Now, if you take a look over here, right, there is a transition. Okay, what do I mean by transition? If you take a look over here, there's a transition here. That means I need to insert one more edge loop here. And because I extruded, I can simply add one more edge loop here. Press Q to select. Grab the vertices and then just move it down like that. Okay, now for the cone over here, you can see that there's a nice gentle curve that goes around here. So right now we have a very straight line here, but we know that these are four-sided faces because we quick extruded them out. So shift right mouse click, right, we can insert one multi-cut here, right, and then using our move tool, right, we can grab these vertices and just move it to match the curve, okay, of the structure. Now remember, the center portion of this aircraft, right, is a center skid. If you look at the reference images, you can see that the round part of the body, right, is mostly around from here all the way to here. So that's why you need to study your reference very carefully. Then the center part is basically the skid. Okay, because this aircraft does not have retractable landing gear, when it's being shot up into the sky, the wheels will fall off. And then you land by using a skid. Right, so there's a central skid here. Okay, going back to the 3D model, so I'll just focus on the body. And if you take a look at the 3D body, right, you can see that our shape, right, the shape is coming along just fine. All right, so I can press number, get out of X-ray mode and take a look. If you press number 3, you can have it look like subdivided. And also, you'll notice some problems here for the faces that we extruded. Now, this is very common, right, when you use this method of modeling. When you extrude out selected faces, right, there will be what we call internal faces here that we need to get rid of. Okay? So this is very, very normal. So what you can do is, you can place this second half object, right? You can place this second half object in another layer, so we can temporarily hide it. So I'm going to add this object. Okay, create layer from selected. So I'm going to call this mirror half. Double click on the layer, we call it mirror half. We can give it a different color and save. So we can temporarily turn it off by clicking on the V. And we'll take a look at these faces here. These are the faces that we need to get rid of. So these are the internal faces. We need to get rid of these faces. Remember just now we extruded out the half, right? So every time we extrude out from the cylinder, we need to get rid of this. So when I unhide the mirror half, okay, now when I press number 3, you can see that we don't have that problem anymore. Okay? So in order to keep this as simple as possible, right, we are going to now attempt to extrude the wings. Okay, so first we go and adjust. Okay, in subdivided mode, right, you can see the shape of the plane is already coming along just fine. You just need a few more tweaks here and there. Right, just move this vertex up like that. So if you've done your head tutorial, right, the concept is quite similar. So you can see now the half of the plane is created, but we want to extrude out the wings. So let's take a look at X-ray view again and see where are the wings. So the wings, right, are right about here. It starts from here. There's this big section called the chord of the wing. All right. So what we can do is that we can extrude a bunch of faces and move them to form this shape. Now, the shape that makes aircraft fly, right, is known as an airfoil shape, which is this shape here. If you're modeling airplanes, right, this thing is very, very important. Okay, so a plane cannot fly, right, or rather a plane can still fly with wings, but if the wing is not shaped properly, it's not going to fly very efficiently. So what we're going to do is that we are going to move our vertices in such a way that it follows this shape. So now we have enough what we call subdivisions, right? The first thing I want to do is I want to move this point until it reaches here. I'm going to go to level 1 first. Okay, go to level 1. I'm going to move one of the vertex until it reaches here. Then this vertex, I'm going to move it up until it reaches here. And this vertex up until it reaches here. This vertex just move up. And then this vertex move forward until it reaches here. This one I can keep it here. This one I can keep it here. Maybe then move back a little bit more. This one move back. And you can see what I'm trying to do over here. I'm trying to match the shape of the airfoil. So that now, when I select the faces, right, you can see the rough shape is matching the wing cross section. Okay, one more, maybe the vertex, I'll just push it down here. You can see everything is still very low resolution. All right, now we can pull out the wing. So select these faces, holding down the shift. All right, we're going to pull out a small section first. So now we're going to take a look at the top view. All right, so from the top view, you can see one of the vertices here, just now, the last of the vertex, right, should be behind here. Okay, we can actually fix it right now. We go to vertex mode, select this vertex, then push it back here. All right, then if we go back to face mode, those earlier faces are still selected. Okay, so one of the vertices, we will push it back here again. But anyway, now the vertices are selected, right, or rather the faces are selected. We can extrude it out by holding down the shift, right mouse click and extrude face. And we do not want to extrude along the normals, otherwise you'll end up like that. All right, what we want to do is we're going to click on this switch, and then we're going to extrude out one small section first. This switch will extrude along the global axis. If I go to the top view right now, I have to see how much should I extrude. I want to extrude until it reaches to this point where we are transitioning to the main wing here. You can see this line over here. So when I extrude this amount, next I want to use the scale, the non-uniform scale, right, to flatten this group of faces. Okay, to flatten the group of faces. And at the same time, I can use it to scale down so that it matches along the line over here. So I'm going to scale down a little bit more. Then I'm going to use the move tool to move it until the thickness, right, of the wing is matched. Okay, so I'm going to use scale again to scale it up a little bit more. So remember, flatten the extruded faces, then move it until, scale it down until it matches the length here. What I'm talking about is this length here, from here to here, all right, like that, using the non-uniform scale tool. Right, so once you're done, you should see the transition is looking good. But now the top view is okay, but what about the front view? That's where the front reference come in. You can see the front here, it is actually much thinner. So while the scale is still selected, we can scale it down, and then we can move it up and down until it matches. Right, this one can maybe go forward a little bit. Okay, with the faces still selected, right, now we can continue to extrude the wing all the way to the tip here. So let's go to perspective view and see. Okay, looking good so far. Going to apply another extrude. Extrude the face. Again, using global axis, not the local axis, not the normal axis, and then pull out the wing. So with the wing pull out, we go up to our top view again. And that's where we can scale it down then push it back, and then you can pull it forward some more, like that. Normally I will just extrude it until it matches the size of the wing here. I'm just going to scale it up a little bit more, like so. Now for the wingtip, right, I will later extrude another portion and then reshape this. But meanwhile, I will end here at this edge, and then I will inspect my side view. Now this plane wing is very unique in that it has something called a washout. Okay, so now I'm going to scale this down. If I switch back to switch off the X-ray, okay, and then temporarily, right, I just want to hide my plane body. Let me just select the plane body and put it inside here, and then just hide it first. Now if you look at the wing here, there's this thing called the downwash. Okay, this is another engineering term for aerospace. So the wing, right, when it starts out is horizontal, but when it reaches the edge, right, there is an angle which you can see. So you can see the original wing started at this angle, but then, right, you will end at this angle. So you can see that there is something called a downwash. This is actually to keep the plane to fly stable. So let me turn on, and we need to apply the same downwash for the wing. So switching back to X-ray, with the wingtip faces selected, I will go to rotate and then rotate it the same angle to match the downwash, like that. So we want to be as accurate as possible. Okay, so you can see the wing right now has been created. Okay, the wingtip, right, the refinement, I will work on it later on. Now if you look at our plane right over here, you can see that there's not enough subdivisions over here. If I press number 3, right, to subdivide, you can see that this edge is collapsed quite a bit. Okay, you see this part is collapsed quite a bit. So we need to add edge loops here and edge loops here, right, to rebuild the top section. So I'm going to add one edge loop here. Remember, use middle mouse click to add one evenly spaced, that means in the middle here. And then one more edge loop right about here. Now if you want the wing, right, to the detail here to be much tighter, you just add one more edge loop very close to the edge here, like that, and watch what happens when I click. You can see now it is much more defined. Okay, so now we can sort of like reshape this a bit. You can go to edge, you can move this up to puff up the edges a bit, or you can go to the front view, right, go to the front view and then go to vertex and go to X-ray view, grab these vertices and then pull it out like that. Then the bottom here, because we added an extra edge loop around here, I'm going to just puff it out like that. Okay, if you are doing this the first time, it will be a bit confusing. You might not know what you are selecting. So you might want to turn on this tree view. Okay, remember to press number 6, right, to turn on all of this, right. So you might want to turn on this tree view, right, to help you see what is being moved around. Okay, so you can change this into X-ray view as also. Okay, so far it's looking good. All right, I like the wing. The wing is following the shape pretty closely. Next is the vertical fin. Okay, vertical fin. So for the vertical fin, right, we need to select the faces, right, that is directly above here, and then we just extrude it out. So this one is very obvious. You go to level 1, and then we're going to pick this face here. So this face is going to become the vertical tail fin. But being a nitpicker, right, for me, I want the tail fin to be accurate. So I'm going to insert one more edge loop right about here. Okay, this will give me extra faces, right, to create a streamlined tail fin. So I'm going to select these two faces, and I'm going to be extruding it out to form the tail fin. So shift right mouse click and extrude. And again, using global axis, using the global axis by turning on this switch, I'm going to extrude one section out like that. Okay, so don't worry about how ugly it looks first, because we're going to reshape this. We're going to use the extrusion tool, transformers, right? Transform tool to flatten the top faces. Okay, then we can use the Z scale to scale it inwards like that. Then we can use the arrow to push it back like this. Okay, until we get the rough shape looking like that. All right, right now okay, let me go back to a perspective view. Right now the fin is very thick and it doesn't look very streamlined at all. So we had to do some fix to it. And also remember the internal faces. We got internal faces inside which we need to get rid of. So I need to hide one of the halves first. So, okay, go back to here. Let me get this half out first. Remove selected object here so that I can hide this half. And remember, if I press number 3, you can see there are internal faces over here, right, inside, because I extruded from the center here. So I'm going to get rid of these two faces, and so that when I unhide the other half, it's going to look much better. Okay, now this part here, I need to fix it because it's not streamlined at all. I'm going to level 1, all right, and I'm going to insert one edge loop at the bottom. Okay, this will give me some leeway, right, to fix the top here. So I'll go over to vertex, grab this vertex here, and then push it inwards. Okay, what I'm trying to create over here is to create this streamlined shape called, again, another airfoil section. Now, if you look from the top over here, you can see that this is like a mini wing, except that it's symmetrical. And then these two vertices here, just push it inwards until it forms this shape like that. Okay, those of you who know aircraft, right, will know how important this is. So if you press number 3, now you can see that I have a very nice streamlined shape. Since this is a rocket plane and it has a nozzle, right, so I'm going to select these faces here. I'm going to extrude it out. And then after that, I'm going to delete it because there's a nozzle there. And remember the internal faces, go and delete it away. Okay, so that we have a nice clean nozzle. If I press number 3, you notice that the top part here needs another edge loop that runs across here. So I'm going to insert one edge loop right near to the edge here like that. Or you can do bevel also. Then if you press number 3, now the top part here is cleaner. Same for the edge. Okay, the edge here is a bit rounded. So if I insert one edge loop here, then if I press number 3, you can see now the wing is much more defined. All right, so the basic blocking shape of my aircraft is more or less done. Okay, maybe some area here I need to tweak a little bit. You can see that it's not very round. All right, so I have to go and move this up a little bit. So at the end of the day, right, you will probably have to spend a lot of time, right, tweaking and moving the dots, right, until they form the shape that you want. I think for beginner, right, for the time being, right, I don't need you guys to add too much details. In fact, in order not to keep this too long, I will not do the skid. But for the skid, right, if you want, it's very simple. You just need to select the bottom faces, and then after that, right, you just extrude it down to form the skid and the spine there. Okay, I'll let you guys figure out how to do that. But at least, right, I want you guys to try, right, to create the wing. Okay, going back to X-ray view again one more time. You can see that this section here, it is not following the loop, right? It's not following the section because we need another edge loop here, right? If you go to 1, you can see we need to insert a couple more edge loop right here. So to do that, just use the multi-cut tool. One edge loop here, maybe one edge loop here. Now, if I press number 3, now you can see it is sticking very closely, right? And I can actually grab these vertices, then pull it back up a little bit so that it matches the subdivided version. And as for this section here, I'll insert one more edge loop here. Okay, so that I can move the vertices until it matches the the wing here. So I'm going to grab all these and then move it down a little bit. Press number 3 to see what it looks like. Okay, so now this is matching. Okay, so you can see I have to add a lot of edge loops around the wing chord. Wing chord is like the beginning of the wing area there. But you can see I have the nice sections, right, that form the wing. Okay, so finally, let's say you finish doing the wing. I haven't really done the wingtip yet, but let's say, okay, I'm done with the model already. I'm happy with this. Okay, let me just tweak this a little bit more just to make it a bit rounder. I'm happy with this, and now I want to complete my model. So how do I join the two halves together? That's where the, what do you call that, the merging of the, merging of the files come in. Okay, let me just do a bit more tweaking. Just want to make sure that the shape, right, is correct. Again, this is me nitpicking here. Okay, so let's say, okay, I'm done. So now I need to combine the two halves together, right? So to combine the two halves together, right, remember they are still two separate objects. They are still two separate objects. So select one half, shift select the other half. All right, then go to mesh, combine. All right, can anybody tell me, is my model, right, really combined together? Sorry, what are you saying? I cannot hear. Okay, clear the history, but then my question is this still two halves or not? Or is it still one object? Okay, object-wise, once I do, when I select these two, when I merge together, object-wise, yes, there is a single object. But component-wise, they are still two separate components. Why is that so? Because if you use this type of modeling method, right, the last step you need to do is to merge the center vertices. Because if I select these two over here, I know it's two because the heads-up display polycount, right, is telling me there are two. Okay, because we need to do something called merge the vertices. So if you go to the top view, I'm going to press 4 to go to wireframe. If you look closely, right, it looks like they are joined, right? They are okay, but I think this is also one area, right, where a lot of students will have issues. Okay, so normally, right, we will try to select all the center vertices and then we apply the merge so that vertices that are too close together, right, will not be accidentally merged. So that is what we normally do, lah. But then sometimes, if you have a lot of vertices that are too close to each other, you cannot do that, right? You can just roughly select all the center vertices because we want the two half vertices, right, to be merged. Then we apply a merge. Okay, so if you kept the center vertices lined up together and you apply a edit mesh and merge. Okay, I'm going to open up the option box here. You can see this option here. It says merging distance. This is the merging distance, minimum merging distance. So if I were to increase, what happens, right, when I increase the merging distance, those vertices, right, they are fairly close to each other will collapse together. So what happens when I increase and try a merge, when I do a merge like that, merge, see all the vertices will be collapsed together. That's not what we want. All right, so let me undo. So what we want is that any vertices that are sitting on top of each other will be merged. So we go to edit mesh, merge, click on option box. I'm going to reset the settings. I'm going to use the default values because 0.01 is fairly small. And then I will try merging, see what happens. Okay, so the shape didn't change. Okay, that means we are good. So I'm going to test again. I'm going to select the center, one of the center vertex by dragging a box over it. Just dragging a box over it. And it should show me one vertex. It should only show me one. And also, if I go to shaded mode and I press number 3, the center line in the center should be gone. There shouldn't be any center line. That is usually a good clue, right, to let you know that the merging did not go successful. But this one went through successfully. So now, this object is truly a single object, whether in object mode or component mode. And now, like what Jaren has said, we need to delete away the history. Otherwise, it will generate a lot of these transform nodes. So I'll delete away the history. Okay, deleting history can only be done in object mode. So delete history, freeze transformation, and then center the pivot. Okay, so at this stage, if you still want to tweak the model, you can use your symmetry. The symmetry should work now. I will go to the symmetry along the x-axis. So if I select the face here, the other face, yeah, will be selected. So if it's a perfect symmetry object, right, yeah, I can still edit this. Okay. All right, so that is essentially what symmetry modeling is all about. And you can see that I have the basic model blocked out. This is only blocking. Remember, details like adding the cockpit and everything, we still have to go and select it, go and separate it. Okay, so other details like the accuracy of the wing shape and all that, we can still tweak further to make the plane look more accurate. Okay, so but once it's done, you can say that this is the blocked ME163. All right, then you're done. Okay, so hopefully you guys can try this out. We only have about 15 minutes left. Those of you who already started, right, you can try to finish this. So eventually, right, a lot of the modeling, right, I'll be using this method for modeling objects that are symmetrical. All right, so I'm going to save this. And I'll stop the video.